They use their media to assassinate real news. They use their schools to teach children that their president is another Hitler. They use their movie stars and singers and comedy shows and award shows to repeat their narrative over and over again. And then they use their ex-president to endorse the resistance, all to make them march, make them protest, make them scream racism and sexism and xenophobia and homophobia, to smash windows, burn cars, shut down interstates and airports, bully and terrorize the law-abiding, until the only option left is for the police to do their jobs and stop the madness. And when that happens, they'll use it as an excuse for their outrage. The only way we stop this, the only way we save our country and our freedom, is to fight this violence of lies with the clenched fist of truth. I'm the National Rifle Association of America, and I'm freedom's safest place.
Oh yeah. You see that little pin, you can drive that. Oh, and by the way, you don't want to dry fire these things. Just a little bit to the side of the shooter. 1, 2, 3. All in 25, 25 and a half, 26 grain. Hey folks, Manny CA here with another informative and entertaining video, I hope, on maintaining your firearms, maintenance, and design. This time we got the Marlin 336. Beautiful gun. Lever action rifle carbine made by Marlin Firearms. Introduced in 1948 into 336 condition. This gun is the 20-inch model. You just saw us shooting at the range. We're going to go through and show you how to slick up your gun. Full length action, okay? And we'll kind of go through and show you what we mean by that. Now this is the 20-inch model, right? And you can see the full length of the stroke. What's the difference between that and our good friend, the Winchester 94AE 3030? Besides the straight stock on the Winchester, we got that beautiful buttstock on there. I think these are both, they look like they're supposed to be hardwood, but I think that the Winchester is hardwood. It's walnut, when the Marlin looks like beech. And you can tell it's beech because I'll show you these little half moons right there. I don't know if they come up. Every time the stock kind of goes, you can see right around the edges right here, there's a little half moon design. Let's see if we can catch that for the camera. That is your telltale sign that this is a beech stock. It's the grain of the way that, just the way the grain goes. Now you can see immediately two different designs, and that's what made the 336 very, very popular compared to, well, the 94 popular also, but you can see what made the Marlins, I think, just as much popular as the Winchesters. Now this one's got the short barrel, nice carbine barrel, fun to shoot. We haven't taken this out on the range yet. They both have these god-awful cross safeties You know, these safeties that they put on there. It's got the carbine ring on it, but you know what? They're all fun. And you can see that the 94, see if we get this in the picture, the 94 is just a little bit shorter, you know, a little bit shorter stroke. You can see it's because of the curve on the 336. The 94 just has that shorter, a little bit faster, but then again, you got that big cartridge that you have to have that big stroke for. You see that? So maybe a little bit later on we'll do a comparison video. For now, it's all about the 336. Yeah, we're gonna do a whole thing on the 336, your care feeding of your rifle, the maintenance, how to slick it up. That's basically what we're doing this time around. First thing we're gonna do, take her apart, get into the guts, because that's something everyone needs to know about their gun, how to take this beauty apart. Otherwise, why are you going to pay someone to do it? So again, this is in 30-30. Marlin made these and also in 35 Remington. Very nice, using a 20 or 24 inch barrel. Currently it looks like they only got the 24 inch barrel with the 30-30, being produced by Remington Arms. Now, we did one of our prior videos on the remember, it was, is it a Marlin, is it a Remington, or is it a Remlin? Now this is one of the last Marlins that they actually produced at their factory before they got bought out by Remington. And there were a lot of bad things that happened between the time that they were acquired by Remington and the gun actually got back to where I think it should have been. A couple of years, in fact. In that time, a lot of bad guns were made. So, got to just take your chances. Guns were not feeding correctly. They were running like crap, basically. Sorry to say, but I think Remington has gotten the bugs worked out of that. Basically, what had happened was, you know, you're taking all this tacit knowledge. Tacit knowledge is that knowledge that employees have that they don't write down through the years. And when Remington acquired Marlin, a lot of those employees, they either left or they quit, taking all of that great knowledge with them. I read an article one time about how there were all the machinists at the old Marlin plant. You know, they had everything written down on the wall, how to adjust the machine. Because remember, the machines wear over time. As the machines would wear, they had to readjust it. The machinists who worked with these machines for 20, 30 years, they knew the exact wear these machines went through and how to adjust the machines to get the tolerances they needed. So basically, it was written down on the wall behind a machine. Pretty funny. The story goes that they had the new machinists come in and they asked the old machinist, "Hey, I got the book here and it tells me how to adjust the machine." And the old machinist kind of laughed at him and said, "The instructions on how to adjust the machine are on the wall behind the machine." So that's the kind of stuff that you cannot pay to have. A lot of knowledge lost, a lot of sad, sad times. But then again, that goes beyond the scope of this video. Today we're going to go through, kind of show you guys how to slick up your 336 rifle. I think that is highly, highly overlooked, and it's a shame because this is beautiful. Look at that gun. Well, you saw us on the field, on the range in the field we were going through. We showed you this. That was the shooting time. This is the maintenance and operation time. So we'll go through. We're going to take her apart. And hopefully you guys will have some fun. Again, we are not gunsmiths. We are gun enthusiasts. And if we could do this ourselves, why do you want to pay somebody to do it? After you do this enough times, you get pretty good at it. You're not being paid to do this. You're doing it for your own guns or your friends' guns when they bring them over. Again, one more time, I like to reiterate the importance of a good set of screwdrivers. Yes, this is a Wheeler Engineering. Yes, it is China made. Currently, not that I know of, unless you want to spend a couple of $100 on a real set of screwdrivers. I think Foster's makes them. I believe Foster's. Foster's? One of them. But this one is the one I use in my range bag, is the one I use here. These are just for guns. Okay, guys? Remember, you want a set that are just for guns. They're hollow ground. They do not have that sharp tip like this, like the screwdrivers you're going to find at the hardware store. okay, where you're gonna ding up your screws. These screwdrivers come like this. This is an exaggeration. They're hollow ground where they put the force on the whole screw. That being said, I still like my masking tape. And what I do is before I start my session, I go through and I find all the bits I'm gonna need. Get my bits ready to go. And I tape my screwdriver bits. Just as an extra precaution to make sure that if I slip as I'm doing it, I don't scratch the hell out of my finish or I don't ding up my screws. Something to keep in mind. Okay, now of course you make sure your gun is empty. And you do not want any live ammo on your desk. So, we are empty. We begin our disassembly by opening the action halfway and removing the lever screw, which is that screw right there. Again, tape bits. If I go too fast, the beauty of YouTube or anywhere, because who knows where we're going to be the next couple months, is that you could rewind it and have a nice little tray for your parts. What we're going to do is we'll disassemble the gun, then we'll go through and we'll talk about the different parts and what we're going to do to slick them up. Remove your lever, your bolt slides right out, and your, let's get this guy out, your ejector right in here. And I don't want to lose him, so I'm using a pair of pliers. Remove the rear tang screw, which is this right here. Slide the stock. Easier said than done, huh? There we go. Slide the stock off. Lower the hammer by depressing the trigger safety block, which is this little guy right there. You see that right there? That's your trigger safety block. You need to press that while pushing your pulling your trigger and lowering your hammer. Remove the hammer spring. Now, this is where this design is great. You can remove the hammer spring right here just by pushing this out. Oh, good gracious, look at that. Simple, simple, simple. And that leaves your hammer strut right in here. Remove the hammer pivot screw and remove the hammer through the clearance slot by rotating it upward. So, hammer screw, we'll move this. And again, nice and slow. You're not in a rush. You do not want to mar the finish on your gun. Hammer. Next, we're going to remove the trigger guard plate support screw from the left side of the action. That's this guy right here. And you want to remove the bottom one also. That'll allow your bottom tang to slide free. That will expose your locking bolt. Will slide right out. And the carrier screw, which is on this side, which is that little thing right in there, that's the carrier. That's what feeds your rounds up and down from your tube right here. And that screw is right here. I've got a different bit set up because it's smaller. Your carrier should now, technically, put your finger in there, drop right out. Look at that. Beautiful. Now, this gun is disassembled as far as we need it to for what we're going to do today. Of course, you can remove your barrel sling here and the band, and you can undo this screw right here, and this, then you can undo this screw and you can slide out your tube, which we're not going to do. Is just that it's kind of basic. This screw right here will remove your loading gate, which we really don't need to do for this, so we're not going to do it. But hey, who knows what you guys are looking at this video for. If you need to do it, that screw pops right out, this guy will fall right down. Next thing you want to work on is called the finger lever plunger, which is found on your lever. That's this part right here. What we want to do is you want to take that off, and we're going to polish it. Use a small nail or a punch with a really, really small tip. I'll use this little brad nail right here. And what I like to do is I'll lay it on my tape over here. Now remember, this is under pressure, so what's going to happen is when you try to take that out, it might jump out. So I like to put a little bit of a cloth in front of it so I don't lose my parts. Put the nail down there. So you can see how small that pin is that we drove out. Okay? You don't want to lose it. And there's a nail holding our part under pressure. There you go. And now your spring will pop right out. Now, depending how long this has been done, if it hasn't been done, I'm guessing that inside this cavity is going to be really, really dirty. So, take a little bit of a Q-tip, some more of our oil here. This is just Hoppy's oil, but any kind of oil will do. Give it a good clean out. Take our nice flat piece of steel, put a little bit of oil on there. This is our 600 grit wet dry paper, and the edges on there, we're going to bevel those bevels. Actually, we're going to just smooth those out. We're not changing the angle, so just put them the angles that they are and work slow, and we're going to polish those up. Remember, the sum, everything, all these little parts that we're doing right here will really affect the way your gun handles and cycles. Is I'm going to take and cut a coil, maybe 2 coils off of this spring. Now that flies in what we've said before, but usually I like to thin the springs, but these springs are just too small, too fragile to do that. So what I would do is recommend that you cut only 1 coil at a time and then try the plunger in the gun for tension. I'm going to start off here. We're going to cut just a little bit off. Now what we're going to do is we're going to try it in the gun. You don't want to cut off too much. And already that feels really good compared to what it was before. So installation is just reverse. But this time you're going to have to make sure you push the pin down, push that lever, put the plunger down as you're putting it in. Make sure it's flush. And there you go. Now that we've got the trigger plate out in our hands, we can remove the trigger. And you'll get a better look at the 2-piece trigger and sear. Now, a lot of guys will replace this. They sell a 1-piece trigger you can buy, and you can do that, but you know what? This trigger really doesn't bother me. All I'm going to do is I'm going to just kind of polish up this sear over here, on here. just because I really don't like how how it kind of drags on her. But if you don't know what you're doing, don't do it, because you want to keep this angle. That angle has to be consistent with what it's got on there. You cannot change that angle. You see, here's the hammer, and what happens is when the gun is in the fire position, this is what it looks like. And when you pull the trigger, this is where it comes off. Now this is the safety notch right here, and there's nothing to do with this. Don't mess with this. And the sear on this gun, like I said, this is a lever gun. We're not going to really mess with the trigger pull, but I'm going to clean this edge up right here, and you can see it just so it's a little bit smoother. And again, I'm going to use our 600 grit paper, and I'm not going to change the angle of this at all, and you can kind of feel it. And I'm just going to go polish it up a little bit. That's all we're doing. And you want to make sure you keep that edge the same. We're not going to sit there and grind on it or file on it. All we're doing is cleaning it up. So to reinstall, take your trigger and your sear, like so. Goes right back inside your trigger plate. So we line it up, push it through, and make sure that the pins are flush. This is pushing down right here. See that? That's pushing down right there. With that not being fully compressed, the gun will not fire. So, a trick that guys in the cowboy action circle do is you take a small screwdriver and under the short leg, now let me grab a small screwdriver, and you see this leg right here, the one bearing on top of the trigger safety block, pry the spring up about 1 inch, about 1/8 of an inch. You want to bend this leg upward enough to relieve the tension on the trigger safety block. Don't do it in one time, all in one try, but bend it little by little. Try the trigger block safety for tension with your finger, pushing it up from the bottom behind the trigger. Continue bending and trying until you can easily remove the safety block with your finger. See how this is really hard right now, and it hurts. It's making a pretty good indentation on my thumb, on my forefinger here. You know, so what you want to do is leave enough tension so that the safety block always returns to its down position. Now this is optional. I do this because it's a lot easier to work the gun. So what you can do is you just take your screwdriver and you're going to pry this leg up about 1/8 of an inch. And you just do it little by little. And then you touch it and no, still not. We got it to where it's, look at that, it's a lot easier. And it's going to bring that back down to where it needs to be for safety. But it is a lot easier. So again, this is a personal preference trick. Do it or don't do it. It's up to you. But it does make the gun feel and run a lot smoother. Next, we're going to focus on the spring, the other side of the spring, right over here. That comes right there. That's puts pressure on the trigger. See that? That spring right there, that's sticking up. We're going to do the same thing to that. You want to take and you want to bend it up. And what we're doing is we're just going to relieve some of the pressure on that spring. Let's see if I can get this on the shot there. Right there. You don't want to kink this spring, but if you do, you could just buy a new spring. But what we're doing is relieving that pressure. That way, this doesn't feel so tough when you come to pull your trigger pull. Again, personal preference, go slow, kink it up until you don't want to kink it though. You just want to kind of relieve some of that pressure. Do it until you feels lighter. I can already starting to feel it get lighter. And this is again another personal preference item.